Hey, so this is part 2 of how I raised $2.5 million. If you haven't watched part 1, get over there. Go on, watch it. It's really good. It's in the first video in the description. If you need help, part 1, how I raised $2.5 million, what I do with my time. What do I actually do? And part 2, this is about unique ways that are low cost that I reach out to donors, how I build relationships, how I structure my time, balancing new donors and current donors and engaging them, and how I take big swings. I'll share exactly what that is and what I do with it so that you can steal my ideas. Enjoy.
Okay, I create individualized plans quarterly for these folks, okay? So even if they're not a major donor, but they're a connector, they're gonna refer me, I create an individualized plan for them. I also do this with board members. So here's what that looks like. So let's say I've got Jenny Benson, okay? And let's say that she gives in April and December. Let's say she gives 20K. Okay, I am going to look at my Salesforce, my notes about Jenny, right? I'm gonna plan to likely ask her for more. So let's just go ahead and say it's a 50K ask just for this year. And I'm gonna try to get a meeting in Q1, so before March. I'm going to ask for referrals. I'm going to ask to host a dinner in 3 or 4. And I'm going to, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's it. That's good. That's good. That's good for Jenny. Okay. So I do this kind of planning. Like what are the main things I'm going to ask for? When do I need to get a meeting by? What am I going to ask for? What are my ideas for this person? How can I bring them closer to myself, closer to the mission, closer to the team? And in this meeting, right, I'm asking myself the question, who? So who else needs to be there that would be great for Jenny? Is it a board member? Is it a team member? It depends on their personality. Who do I think is gonna click with Jenny? If I thought that there was someone on the team who isn't even on the fundraising team, but is great at talking about our work, and I thought they would particularly click with Jenny, I'd be like, hey, I need you to come with me in this meeting. I would enroll them in that. If I thought it was gonna make it better, right? A better experience for Jenny. So I'm doing this for every single person. I'm thinking about quarterly, like what's my engagement plan for this person? It's a little rough, but yeah, that's basically it. Tools that I use. So I use, some of y'all already know these, but I use MailSuite, track the opens. Salesforce I think is great, but any CRM, I'm using that all the time. To create content, I would use ChatGPT just to make it go faster. And that's something that I'm gonna create for y'all is I'm gonna try to create my brain inside ChatGPT so that you could ask it questions about your content, about proposals, and then it would spit out recommendation and say, oh, you should cut this in half and then cut it in half again. You know, that kind of thing, right? Yeah, that'd be cool. I'll still be available to you, you know, but yeah, just make your life easier. So you can train, I've been training a couple of models to try to write and think like me. And it takes a lot of iterations, like hours and hours of iterations for it to sound good. But you could do that and it would make your life a lot faster and easier, right? So I would use that for content creation. If it was like writing blogs or emails, I think it would be helpful. Yeah, and you can add, I think it's up to 20 different documents. You can add up to 1 million words in its knowledge base and say, this is who our donor profile is, this is who this is our mission, these are our core convictions, this is how we talk, don't use these words, use these words, blah, blah, blah. So, and then I just like Google, I like Google Suite. So like I love Gmail, I love the calendar, I love the tasks. I use the tasks all the time. So as I'm planning this out for Jenny, right, I'll either go into Salesforce or add a task on my calendar that, you know, February 1, ask for a meeting. And I'll put that as a task so that like, now, great, I said it, forget it, move on with my life. I do that quarterly and update it like, oh, these people are going to give in the future. So what do I need to do now to get them ready and positioned to do that? How can I build the relationship, connect with them, keep them in the loop? That's how I'm thinking. And then putting that on my calendar as a task. You could also do that with your CRM. I'm sure that you could use that as a way to create tasks. It'll ping you, remind you. Yeah, you get it. If this is gonna be, let's say this is only these people, I don't have a huge donor file, and it's gonna be mostly a new donor play, then I need to structure my time like that. Then I'm like, all right, so then Tuesdays are gonna be current donor days, and then Wednesday, Thursday is gonna be new donor days. And I gotta keep that rule, like hold myself to that standard. Which means if a current donor emails me on Wednesday, I do not respond right away. I can wait. Or you could split it. If you, let's say you can't afford to do that. Split it then. Mornings, new donors. Afternoons, current donors. And you maintain that boundary and you create focus for yourself. It makes your life so much easier because then you're not like, you know, it's just like, I gotta answer everybody as soon as they reach out to me and have a question. That's bullshit. Like, how does this get done? It gets done. My colleague, when I was at United Way and we were on the major gifts team, she always said, put a fortress around your focus. She had this like big note and I was like, yeah, that's good. Like, just give yourself permission. Like, Tuesdays in the morning, I don't answer anybody. I'm just doing new donor outreach. I'm just asking for referrals. That's it. If you do that every Tuesday morning, you're gonna build momentum. You're gonna get some traction. You're gonna get new donors. And your folks can wait. Some people put an auto reply. Hey, I only check email twice a day. You know, I'll get back to you later. Or you don't have to say anything. Just be like me and don't say anything. I'll just answer you when I feel like answering you. You know, another thing that I do is at 11 and 3 is when I check email. 11 and 3 is when I check Slack. Like, you can put boundaries around how you use your time so that you actually can focus on doing this outreach. If I know that it's going to be mostly a new donor play, then that has to be a big chunk of my time. And I have to start with the people who've already given, who've already attended an event, who've already been in our world. They're engaging with our newsletter. They're liking our stuff on social media, and I'm reaching out to them. I'm connecting with people. I'm connecting with so many people, and I'm tracking all of that. Okay, I always do, and this is so fun, what I call big swings. Okay, so I try to have at least 10. I like a dozen. It's a nice number. And these are dream people, organizations, companies, foundations that I'd like to partner with, that I'm trying to get their attention. Could be somebody who gave years past. I revisit these big swing people at least once a month, ideally twice a month. And it's when I'm looking at my portfolio on a Monday, right? And I'm practicing gratitude for all my donors. I'm saying prayers of blessing over them. And then I'm also looking at this list and I'm doing some research, I'm strategizing, I'm planning, and I'm asking myself the question, what's what's a creative thing I can do to get their attention? How can I get their attention? Now, of course, I got a story for you. Okay, so don't you worry. Okay, story time with Julie. So there was this donor that I had who gave $50K to a particular campaign that we were doing that was like time bound. And I had never met with them, but I did some research on them. Super wealthy. They have a jet. They fly private. They are totally mission aligned. Okay? We're doing housing, so affordable housing, and they're an interior designer and sort of have like a rags to riches story, really like came from an impoverished background, have just built their own career, their own brand, started their own company. Now they give a lot of money away. But the relationship had gone cold, and of course it wasn't my fault. But you know, sometimes it ain't your fault, but it's your responsibility. That's life, ain't it? So I'm like, well, okay, we should have kept in touch with this person, you know, but let's call them Monica. Monica, interior design, mission aligned, gave $50K 3 years ago, and obviously super rich, has a really big presence online, so kind of easy to track what's going on with Monica. And I've emailed Monica once a month for 8 months, and I got nothing. Okay. But Monica's on my big swings list, so I don't lose track of her because it's sort of like this fun mad scientist experiment thing. I'm like, ooh, what else could I do to try to get Monica's attention? Monica loves dogs. Monica has 3 golden doodles. And she doesn't have any children, but she has 3 golden doodles that are essentially her children. This is what Monica would say. I'm not projecting this onto Monica. This is what Monica would say. And I had this idea. I'm going to send her a letter in the mail to one of her homes. And I went on Etsy and I found these specialty stamps that were golden doodles, like postage. And so I put, you know, I'm in LA and one of her houses is in San Francisco. And it doesn't require 3 stamps to get there, right? But I'm doing it because it represents her 3 golden doodles. So I pay the $12 from Etsy or whatever it is for the stamps. I send the letter, and I just wrote in the card, I was like, hey, Monica, thanks so much for your past support. Like, love to see like what you're doing online and that your business is flourishing and growing. That's amazing. Would really love to talk to you and meet with you. We have some amazing updates I want to share, and I'd just love to get to know you better and share the difference that you've made. And I put my card in there with my contact information, and I mailed it, and then I get an email from Monica. Okay. And she's like, Julie, she acts like she has not ignored me for 9 months, right? Like, Julie, great to hear from you. We've never met. You know, I would love to meet and hear what's going on, you know, totally sounds great, right? So when I've tried to email people or contact them through one channel and it doesn't work, I'll try a different channel and they reply with the channel that's their preference. So if I mail you something and you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna mail you back, I'm gonna email you. Or I've emailed and then I've texted and they respond to my email. Because they're like, don't text me, basically. That's what they're saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, fine, I'll answer your email. I'm like, great. And I got the meeting with Monica, which was a huge thing, right? So I'm like, what are the creative ways? How can I get this person's attention? Because that alone feels like the massive win. Like someone who's super busy, they're never really at home, they're constantly traveling, they probably don't want to meet. And if they do want to meet, it's like a phone call, like, are you available right now? And then again, I think about leverage. I'm like, is there a board member who could reach out to Monica who is interior design adjacent? I look on their LinkedIn, right? I'm like, who on the board could be connected to Monica? I go look on the LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, they are connected. So I'll reach out to that board member. Hey, how do you know Monica? If there's any way in which I can create leverage so that I don't have to work as hard, then I'm going to do it. And having these big swings list where people feel more difficult to get their attention, it really keeps me sharp. It allows me to have space to play, to be creative, to change the ways in which I'm thinking about how to connect with people and reach out to people. And it's just fun. I've had people on my get list who don't know us at all. There's one of the youngest billionaires that is in the world, but also happens to live in LA. I was trying to get a meeting with that person. And that was a really fun experiment because I used MailTrack so I could see that he was opening my email like 8 times and not answering. It could be that his assistant was opening it, but it was his personal email. I digress. But it kept me like, oh, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying, because if he was, there's emails where people don't open them. They just delete them. I'm like, well, at minimum, I'm not in that pile. So how can I creatively get this person's attention? And I read in this article, this billionaire young guy, he was like 26 at the time, I think. And I started reading. The reason he came on my radar is because I have, that's the other thing that I do is Google alerts, like for my, top 50 people, if they show up. And that's what had came up, because I had a Google alert on like I think it was like Los Angeles plus housing plus advocacy plus, some philanthropy. It was some combination of those things. And his name popped up because he was being quoted. And he was talking about how the issue really mattered to him. And I was like, because I read the article. I looked at it and I found. So then I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I saw this quote, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk. I'd love to have you involved. I think you really care about this. And I saw in another article, an interview of him, that he was like, he loves drinking Diet Coke from the glass bottles. So I shipped a 6-pack of Coke in glass bottles to his house. I don't even actually know if he ended up getting it or not, but it was worth a shot. But I'm just saying that these are the creative, it's low cost, deeply low cost. But I'm like, I wonder who else, at least, who's trying to compete for this person's time, in the philanthropy space for sure. I just don't see enough people do it. And it's fun and it's cool to see like what works. Like, this actually worked. So I've done all kinds of stuff like that. But I always revisit it because, again, it keeps me fresh, keeps me sharp, and allows me to experiment and have fun. So the same thing, you could, if you just decide, like the big names, right? Like Gates, Bezos, Mackenzie Scott, Oprah, these people who give a lot of money away, yes. The competition for their attention, we can only fathom. We can only, maybe not even fathom. But that's not to say we shouldn't try. If we're really convinced, again, going back to that conviction, if you're like, this person, they really care about this, I'm not going to drop it. So those are my big swings. And then here's what I'm doing. Every 6 months, I'm looking at my portfolio and I'm disqualifying folks. So the more money that you raise, the more frequently you need to let go of people and move on. So I'm going through and, you set a standard for yourself. And this is in my course portal, the disqualification process, where it's like you have to make a decision and a standard for certain number of outreaches or touch points. We're going to put them on the back burner. It doesn't mean we're going to delete them from our database, but they're not actively on our brain. and it's called disqualification. They're currently disqualified. And then in 6 months, you can, let's say that you got a Google alert on one of the folks in your DQ pile. Then you can bring that back up. Oh, great. They're just talking about education. Let's reach out to them. So it's not to say that you never talk to them again or put any energy towards them. But there's just some people that the timing isn't right. They're not responsive. They're not engaging with anything. They're not opening emails, whatever it is. And so just drop it and set a standard for yourself and your team that you're going to revisit it in another 6 months, another 12 months. You want to look at that pile, that list, so that you can, again, be focused on who really matters right now. And I'm doing the same thing with current donors and with my prospect list, with people who are maybe on the referral list from my current donors. They don't have to necessarily already be a giver. And then the last thing are my KPIs. So I'm looking at LinkedIn messages sent. And I have qualifications around that. So someone fits in that criteria if they fit the ideal donor profile, if I've said, oh, in my research, there's someone who has given previously, or they've attended an event, or they're connected to a current donor somehow. There's some kind of affinity towards what we're doing, right? Then I would say those messages to those people count towards that KPI. Number of meetings or calls scheduled, number of meetings, calls that I had, amount that I asked for, year to date, amount raised towards my goal. So I'm looking at that every week. At the end of every week, I'm like, okay, if I need to raise 2.5, how much have I raised so far? Where am I at towards that annual goal? I think those are all my KPIs. Oh, and this is particularly important if you are really focused on more new donors, like I was talking about earlier. Number of meaningful touch points, like the responses. So that could replace this. If you don't want to track that, then that could be number of DMs, email responses, people who texted me, people who called me back, people like what was incoming. So another way to say that would be inbound. This is a really meaningful way to track because you can see what you're doing and then you can see what you're getting back. And if you're working really hard and you're not getting a lot of responses, then it's a chance to be like, okay, what I'm putting out there isn't working. And to evaluate that on a weekly basis and going back looking through, like, what were my emails? Who were they to? What were my messages? How could I improve them? What was the last message that I sent that I actually got a response? What was it about that resonated? That helps you to evaluate how you're doing in a more objective way. Because you might feel like it's really good, but if you're not getting any inbound, then it ain't that good. It's just feedback. It's like, oh, I need to tweak this. If it's only working 1 out of 10 times, that's really low. Like you're gonna have to go through a lot of prospects. So then it could be, okay, next week I want to get 2 out of 10. Being more direct and honest raises more money faster and for longer. Being honest and being direct raises more money faster and for longer. And the mistake a lot of folks make is they're not very honest. Oh, we don't need you to give more. That's great. Or like, yeah, this is perfect. It's like, no, it's not. We need millions of dollars. It's going to take millions of dollars to create the impact that we want to create. Like, that's honest and being direct. Hey, I actually need you to do more than you're doing. And you've said you're all in. You've said this really matters to you. And so what would your best contribution look like? Because our goals are huge. And I think a lot of folks, to protect their own ego, to not risk relationships, they think that they're going to ruin relationships they've worked really hard to build by asking for too much. And I think we ask for way too little, and that actually puts relationships at risk. We're subconsciously communicating, oh, we're good. We don't really need you that bad. We don't need you that much. And if you're not needed, if you're not challenged, you'll leave. And donors need that. They need to know that, like, hey, we're in this together. We need your help. And here's the bigger challenge that we want you to step into. And that's exciting, especially for people who are really successful, high achieving. They want to be challenged, just like we do. Okay, y'all. That wraps our session